الله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Brother Luqman, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The subject of riba in Islam, which we hope to share with you this morning, is a subject of supreme importance. Riba in Islam, or more properly, the prohibition of riba in Islam. We recall that Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam performed the Hajj only once in his life. And this was after Fathu Makkah, the conquest of Makkah, and the cleansing of the Kaaba of all the idolatry. Or do you need a translation?
I think so. Yes.
No, I think
They always say no.
No, no
Yes, they
translation.
will.
Alhamdulillah.
They won't.
At the end of the Hajj, he gave the khutbah from Arafat. And at the end of that khutbah, he asked the people, have I delivered the message? Do you bear witness? And they confirmed that he had finished his job. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down revelation in which he said, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم. This day have I perfected for you your way of life. وأتممت عليكم نعمتي, and I have completed my ni'mah, my favor unto you by giving you this deen. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا, and I am pleased to give to you as your way of life al-Islam. When that revelation came down, it was very plain and clear to us that this was the end. There's nothing more to come after this. And then the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam returned to Medina. And he had about 81 days left in his blessed life before Allah would take him away. During those 81 days, two very significant events took place. One, of course, was the dramatic appearance of Angel Gabriel alayhi salam in the form of a human being in the masjid in front of everybody. And the 5 questions which were posed. And in those 5 questions we have a pointer pointing very plainly and clearly to Akhirul Zaman and showing the way to deal with Akhirul Zaman. What was the second event? The second one was revelation, which came down. And so that was not the last revelation. Even though it said the religion is perfected, the job is completed, yet it was not the last revelation. On the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, And in a hadith recorded in Sahih Bukhari, we are told that the last revelation which came down was the revelation in Surah Al-Baqarah 275 to 281, and it was on the subject of riba. And in that revelation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a declaration that He will wage war for the eradication of riba. Not just that He would wage war, but that His messenger would also wage war, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And for even those with elementary common sense, if Allah is at war on riba, and the messenger of Allah is at war on riba, and we are not at war, we have our massacre and padang and we go home and sleep. There's a big question mark there about our integrity, about our faith. This is part of the indication of how important is the subject of the prohibition of riba. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should choose this topic for the last revelation. Not only the last revelation in the Quran, more than that. Because the Quran is the last book, then this is also the last revelation of all from Allah. How important is this subject? Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was sent as rahmatul lil alameen. He is the source of rahmah, of mercy unto all of mankind. And yet He cursed. He cursed. He cursed all four. And He said that they were all equally guilty. Who are the four? The one who takes riba, the one who gives riba, the one who records the transaction, and the two witnesses. If you die with the curse of the Prophet upon you, any Prophet, there is no way whatsoever that you could ever enter into heaven. And whoever does not go to heaven will go to hell. There is no third location. It's either here or there. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said about riba that it is comprised of 70 different parts. He said the smallest part of riba is equivalent to a man marrying his own mother, indicating how bad, how terrible is riba. He said, whoever consumes even 1 dirham of riba, dirham, in those days when we had not abandoned Islam, in those days we knew dirham is money. Now that we have abandoned Islam and we're following the Jewish-Christian alliance, we no longer know what is dirham and dinar. Whoever consumes even 1 dirham of riba, it is equivalent to committing zina 36 times. This is kalamul anbiya, the words of the prophets, to try to impress upon us how terrible is riba. He had a vision, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, in which he saw a river of blood. A river of blood. And in that river there was a man who was trying to get out of the river. And every time he came close to the bank to get out, there was one on the bank who would pelt him with stones and drive him back into the river. And in that vision he was told that this man in that river of blood was the moneylender, the one consuming riba. The famous British Sheikh, William Shakespeare, put it similarly in his very famous work, Merchant of Venice, where he portrays the moneylender as lending money not on interest, but that if you default on your payment of interest, you will have to give up 1 pound of your flesh. 1 pound of your flesh. This is the brilliance of William Shakespeare. What then is riba? The definition of riba in the Quran is to be found in that revelation which came down, in which Allah says that if you are admonished by the message and you give up your riba, then you are entitled to the return of your ra'asul mal. فَلَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُمْ, says the Quran. So now we know that a riba transaction is one in which money is lent on interest. Money is lent on interest. And if you give up the interest, then you are entitled to the return of your ra'asul mal, the principal sum which was lent. Why has Allah prohibited money being lent on interest? He gives the answer in the Quran. He says, for example, that if you lend money on interest, in order that your capital sum might increase, it does not increase with Allah. In order that your capital sum might increase in the wealth of others, means at the expense of the wealth of others, it will not increase with Allah. But if you give in charity, seeking Allah's face, meaning Allah's pleasure, then that will increase many, many times. An act of charity, a sincere act of charity, is one in which you give, you take nothing in return. That's charity. An act of riba is the opposite of that. The moneylender takes and gives nothing in return. What he takes is an act of reaping. But the Quran says that وَأَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, that man is not entitled to reap unless he planted. وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Sa'a means effort, planting. That you're not entitled to reap unless you plant. But the Quran is telling us that the moneylender is reaping without planting. If you reap without planting, the implication is that you're reaping what others have planted. You are living off the sweat of others. And so this is why the Quran says, Fi amwalin nas. Your capital is increasing in the wealth of others at the expense of others. The Quran gives a second explanation when it says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. Allah has made business halal and made riba haram. So if you want to eliminate riba, what do? You don't have to go and search for some kind of a sophisticated mechanism to create a creature called interest-free banking. That's not the alternative to riba. The alternative to riba, according to the Quran, not to these dum-dums, is business. Allah has made business halal and made riba haram. And a market should have only business. Only business. Well then, what's the difference between a riba transaction and a business transaction? What's the difference? Who would like to answer me? I'm not going to do all the talking this morning. The question is, what is the difference between a riba transaction, money being lent on interest, and a business transaction? Who would like to answer?
Apa perbezaan di antara transaksi riba dan transaksi bisnis?
Business is harvesting your own life. When riba is harvesting others.
Yes, okay. Anybody else?
In business you can lose the investment.
That's right. In a business transaction, you embrace something called risk. What is risk?
Risiko.
Risiko. Not risk, huh? That is from Razak, not risk. This is risk. In a business transaction, therefore, you can make a profit or you can suffer a loss. When you embrace risk, then Allah can take from some and give to others. And so wealth would circulate through the economy. One day for you, one day for me. The rich who are rich today can be poor tomorrow. And the poor who are poor today can be rich tomorrow. That's only fair. The money lender does not want to suffer loss. So the money lender runs away from business. He is scared of business because he is scared that Allah would take away his wealth. The money lender wants to remain forever rich. And so he lends money on interest. And in so doing, he seeks to eliminate all possibilities of loss. Whether the sun shines or the rain falls, he must get his profit and suffer no loss. Because there is the possibility that the borrower might default on the payment, the money lender seeks something called collateral, a mortgage, like property, land, building, something, that in the event that you default, he can seize your property and recover the money that is loaned plus the interest. And so when an economy is based on riba, the first implication is that money, wealth will no longer circulate through the economy. No. The rich will now remain permanently rich and keep on growing richer and richer. The poor will now be imprisoned in permanent poverty and will keep on growing poorer and poorer. And so the first objective of the money lender is to preserve his wealth, immunize his wealth from loss, and constantly increase his wealth. That's the first. But that's not the only reason. No. There are money lenders and money lenders. There are some money lenders who are content with this, to remain forever rich. But there are other money lenders who have a more sinister agenda. And Allah speaks about that in the Quran in Surah Al-Imran, when He gives the order, لا تأكلوا الربا أضعافا مضاعفة. Do not consume riba, because the riba constantly multiplies. And so they'll put a rope around your neck. And every day the rope is going to become, the noose is going to become tighter and tighter. And you will be strangled. There is one interest which is known as simple interest. But there's another one known as compound interest. And the riba keeps on multiplying. And so if the money lender wants to enslave Indonesia, what he will do is to send what he calls an economic hitman to calculate your capacity to repay a loan, and to then lend you more than you can possibly repay. And once you sign for that, he will ensure that that money which is loaned to Indonesia does not reach the people. That money must be used to fatten those who are servants of the money lender, who will act on his behalf, so they'll be grateful for all the dollars that they're getting. And Indonesia will eventually find itself repaying that loan to such an extent that after you repay the interest every month, you don't even have nasi to eat. And so you are enslaved. And so riba is used for a second reason, to attack you and to enslave you. Those who want to rule the world from Jerusalem are a people who have used riba to further that objective of eventually ruling over all of mankind. What do we do? Answer: we must abstain from riba. Do not borrow money on interest. And do not put your money in a fixed deposit and become a money lender. But our enemies are people with PhDs in deception. And they come with many fraudulent arguments. That actually what the Quran is speaking about is an exorbitant rate of interest. And if the rate of interest is moderate or low rate of interest, that's halal. That's false. It matters not whether the rate of interest or the riba is big or small. It is still haram. Whether it be one glass of whiskey or one sip of whiskey, it is still haram. Whether it be one plate full of lahmul khinzir or one spoonful of lahmul khinzir, it is still haram. They come with other arguments as well. Like they did in Egypt when the British colonized Egypt. They established the post office. And all the Egyptians could see that the post office was a beneficial institution. That anybody could go to the post office and send a letter and pay a small fee, and it will be delivered. In order to raise funds to establish the post office, the post office establishment invited people to invest in the post office. If they were investing on the basis of a business transaction, namely, if the post office makes a profit, you share in the profit. Or if the post office suffers a loss, you share in the loss. That's halal. That's business. But they didn't do that. They said, we want you to invest in the post office in Egypt with a guaranteed return on your investment. Which meant that you were lending your money on interest. No possibility of loss. So you were lending your money on interest. Sheikh al-Azhar at that time was Sheikh Muhammad Abdu. And Sheikh Muhammad Abdu gave the fatwa that this is halal. And from that day to this day, Al-Azhar University has held on to that fatwa. That money which is put in a fixed deposit in a bank is not riba, because the bank uses that money for economic development from which people benefit. There is another answer to the question. What do we do? What is the way out of this form of riba?
Yeah, we must do business self if we have business. Yeah, we must do it the business so money can join and can be bought with the profit, not for the take from in the bank, so in fixed deposit.
Yeah, that answer is correct. You must invest in business.
You must invest in, because invest in business, the business and the area halal business is not it's like riba zone. It's like this is in the trading or and the other is like many things in halal.
The answer is that yes, you invest in a business. If the business makes a profit, you share. If the business suffers a loss, you share the loss. That is the answer. But not to invest in the business as a money lender with a guaranteed return on your investment. Because now you put your money in what is essentially a fixed deposit. Is there any other alternative, any other answer that has been given? Yes. Yes, there is a curious institution in the world today called Islamic banking. And they say we are the alternative to riba. So let us look at this curious creature called Islamic banking.
But in Indonesia, Islamic banking is same with the system, still
Conventional.
with convention. Because not the if the visa what is spice with the conventional, the business is good, but not few in Indonesia with Islamic banking can do with the Islamic principle. And here, but still part of the part of soul.
It matters not whether you talk about Indonesia or Malaysia or Egypt or Tunisia
Yeah.
or Britain or America, they're all the same. So no need to focus on Indonesia. No, they're all the same. I have not found Islamic banking to differ one place from another. They're all equally fraudulent. All equally fraudulent. What is Islamic banking? There is a second kind of riba that we were dealing with just now. But at this time, let us look at what are the transactions offered by an Islamic bank. You want to buy a car,
Yeah.
a motor car, Toyota, and you cannot afford to pay for the car cash. The cash price of the Toyota is how many million?
150 million.
The cash price of the Toyota is 150 million. And you do not have the 150 million. So you have a motorbike, and mashallah, 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 you got a wife. So now there are two of you. And then mashallah, 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 you got a baby. So now there are three of you. But if your wife gives you another baby, how are you going to balance on the motorbike? One wife, one husband, two babies, three babies.
One grandma, one
So
grandfather.
we're gonna have to find a solution. We need a motor car. Okay? So you go to the bank, Islamic bank.
Yeah.
And when you go to the bank, you say, Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. I want to buy a motor car, 150 million. Toyota, I don't have the money to pay cash. Can you help me?
Yeah.
The bank says, no problem. We can help you. We have something called murabaha.
Yeah.
And the bank explains to you that murabaha, and this of course is the correct explanation, that a murabaha transaction is one in which both the buyer and the seller are aware of the profit margin. So the Cost price is 150 million. You know it and I know it. But we will buy it for 150 million and we will sell it to you for 300 million. And since both buyer and seller are aware of the profit margin, this is, or they call it, the markup. They create new terminology. They call it markup. This is halal. But why would I pay 300 million when the price in the market is 150 million? Why? If this is a cash transaction, but I don't have the cash to pay. So it can't be a cash transaction. But now we know it's a credit transaction. The bank is giving me time to pay, 5 years. And in return for time,
5 years.
the money has increased. In return for time, the money has increased. So money is increasing by itself over time. It matters not whether it is a motor car or a house or a trip to Disneyland. It makes no difference. Money is increasing over time. This is not murabaha. No. If it was a cash transaction, it would be halal. But if it's a credit transaction, it is not halal. Because in Islam, credit price and cash price must always be the same.
Must be the same.
If credit price is higher than cash price, the difference between the two would be because of time, and that is riba. But our ulama give fatwa all over the world, not just Indonesia,
Yeah.
that this is a halal transaction. And so the Muslims are going to the Islamic bank to actually borrow money on interest. The conventional bank lends the money on interest through the front door. Islamic bank lends you money on interest through the back door. That's worse than the front door. There are other aspects of this murabaha transaction which makes it plain and clear that this is a more dangerous transaction than the one from the commercial bank. Let us turn now to the second definition of riba. The Quran does not refer to it directly by name, but the Quran commands us, لا تبخسوا الناس أشياءهم. Don't rip off people. Don't rip off people. Do not decrease the value of people's wealth, people's property, people's wages. Don't do that. Don't rip off people. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is the one who gave it the name riba. He said, if you meet a man coming to the market to sell his goods in the market, it's a truckload of durian, and you buy his durian from him before he could enter into the market. And when he enters the market, then he finds out he could have gotten a better price in the market. That, said the Prophet, is riba. You exploited his ignorance of the market price to rip him off. From this definition of riba, we now have the general principle that every rip-off is riba. And the biggest rip-off of all, which has ever occurred and is still occurring since Adam alayhi salam set foot on earth, is this rip-off of paper money. This is it. This paper money is bogus, it is fraudulent, it is haram. This paper money is shirk. And this paper money functions as a vehicle of riba, through which the biggest rip-off ever in history has taken place, is still taking place. How are we ripped off through paper money? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines what is money in the Quran and in the Hadith. But apparently they no longer teach this subject to the ulama. What is money? Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam one day with dates, kurban, and offered some dates to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet looked at the dates and he said, Bilal, these are very high quality dates, kurban. Where did you get them? Bilal said, O Messenger of Allah, I had 2 sa', which is a measure of weight, like a kilogram. I had 2 kilograms of inferior quality dates. They may have had the value of 50,000 rupiah each. So the 2 kilograms would be valued 100,000 rupiah. I had 2 kilograms of inferior quality dates, and I exchanged them for this 1 kilogram of superior quality dates. And this one has a value of 100,000 rupiah. So in value, they were the same. In value, they were the same. Bilal, said the Prophet, this is the essence of riba. Do not do that. What you should have done was to sell the 2 kilograms of inferior quality dates. Use that money to buy the 1 kilogram of superior quality dates. But to have an exchange of dates for dates, which was an unequal exchange, this was riba, this was haram. Cannot exchange dates unequally. But Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu exchanged 1 camel for 4 camels. And that was not haram, and that was not riba. Now who will explain to me why the camels was not haram, but the dates was haram? Let me hear you.
Much camel spread leather contains other baby camel.
No. Yeah.
Camels are not normal commodities. And the dates are commodities.
Okay, next.
Because camel is not money. Meanwhile, dates, it's money.
MashaAllah, your foreign ministry is making good advances here. Camels were not used as money. Animals were not used as money. But dates were used as money. Because dates were used as money, that is, if you had a shortage of dinar and dirham in the market in Medina, they would use dates as money. Because dates were used as money, if we allow an unequal exchange of 2 kilograms for one, if that's halal, then the money lender will come and lend you 1 kilogram for 2, which is a loan on 100% interest. So to prevent the money lender from lending money on interest, you are not allowed to exchange dates unequally. Do you understand that, or do you have any questions? I wonder if they understand.
I ask about the credit. It's like example. It's like if we need one house, the houses like here, but we don't have case for transaction must be credit. So the credit need by final credit, it's like final credit on bank or finance. It is different price, cash price and credit price, but bank can offer with insurance, with the insurance high price. With insurance, but the cash price without insurance is different, and it is different price, cash and credit with insurance. It is including riba or not, is like this.
You have returned now to the subject that we've just left behind, Islamic banking. So let us leave this question until the question and answer session. What I've just done was to explain why it was haram and riba to exchange 2 kilograms of dates for one. But it was not haram and not riba to exchange 4 camels for one. I want you to explain in Bahasa. You didn't understand?
I understand.
Good, explain to them.
Could you repeat again?
No, why should I repeat it?
Oke. Adalah bukan hal yang halal apabila kita menukar. Tadi kan disebutkan bahwa hadisnya Nabi Muhammad mengatakan kepada Bilal, Bilal, dari mana kamu dapat mendapatkan kurma ini? Kurma ini sangat bagus. Kurma itu ada 2, ditukar kepada 1. 2 kurma jelek ditukar sama 1 kurma bagus. Seharusnya yang dilakukan adalah jual kurma itu masing-masing 100.000. Kalau harganya 50-50, kemudian baru beli kurma yang bagus itu. Karena apabila nilainya sama, nilainya itu dikatakan halal apabila tidak mengurangi kualitas dan kuantitas dari yang kita jual. Jadi kalau kita punya barang yang jelek 2, harganya 100.000 ditukar dengan barang yang bagus 1 tapi harganya 100.000, itu dalam Islam nggak boleh, karena kita telah menipu seorang yang kita jual itu bahwa 2 barang kita yang senilai harganya sama itu jelek. Yang harus kita lakukan adalah kita jual dulu, kita dapat duit, baru kita cash 100.
I had a question. Why it's riba? Because you say that And in that time, dates were money. And why Bilal must sell those dates first before he can get the another good date? Because it's all the same. When Bilal sell it, he get money, but the dates itself is money. Why?
That's what he's supposed to explain to you in Bahasa just now.
Karena itu menipu. Karena nilainya kan
Karena the quality.
I have not as yet completed the definition of what is money. Let me finish that and we'll come back to this. Okay. Why was it that an unequal exchange of dates was haram, was riba, but an unequal exchange of camels was not? The answer to that question is located in another hadith. So let's go to that hadith now. And I want you to listen carefully. Put on your thinking cap. The Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, if a transaction involves an exchange of gold for gold, or silver for silver, I'm speaking as slowly as I can. I can't speak slower than this. I don't want to speak slow to put you to sleep. I'm speaking slow so you will understand. That's why.
Yes.
If a transaction involves the exchange of gold for gold, or silver for silver, or wheat for wheat, or barley for barley, or dates for dates, or salts for salt, it must be equal for equal. If you have 2 kilograms on this side, you must have 2 on this side. It must be equal for equal. It must be hand to hand, meaning credit transaction is haram. You're not allowed to have a credit transaction when the transaction involves an exchange of gold for gold, or silver for silver, etc. Other than this, it would be riba. What is common to all 6? Gold, silver, wheat, barley, dates, salt. What is common to all 6? Answer: all 6 were used as money in the market. So that in Medina, if there was a shortage of gold and silver coins, they would use dates as money. Okay? And so now we have the definition of money in Islam. Of course the government of Indonesia is going to reject it. Of course the IMF is going to reject it. Of course. But we're talking about Islam, we're not talking about them. The definition of money in Islam is that money is either precious metals, gold and silver, or when gold and silver are in short supply in the market, then money would be commodities of food consumption, which have a shelf life, meaning you can store them. You can't store mangoes, can you? Mangoes are rotten. So commodities of food consumption which have a shelf life, which are in abundant supply in the market, and which have value inside, intrinsic value. The value of the money is inside the money, not in George Soros's pocket. And that value is created by Allah. This is money in Islam. Dinar is in the Quran. Dirham is in the Quran. So long as we use this money, they could not rip us off. No. So long as we use this money, we never suffered from inflation. The price of a sheep 5,000 years ago in gold and silver is the same price today. No difference, except when there are changes in demand and supply. So mankind never experienced inflation or constantly rising prices so long as we use money, which is in Islam, the Quran and the Sunnah. If I had 5 dinars, and with that 5 dinars I could buy a sheep, I could put that 5 dinars away, lock it away, and my grandchild can take it out and go and buy the sheep. Because this money preserved its value. What the enemy did was, first of all, and this was my lecture last night on the International Monetary Fund, what the enemy did was to what the enemy did last night was to, I mean in my talk last night, what the enemy did was to make it haram for you to use the money that Allah had made halal. So the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund prohibits the use of gold as money. If you make haram what Allah made halal, that is shirk. And if we accept it, we also are in the shirk. And yet there are those who have the ijtimaa in downtown Chicago, 500,000 of them, in a Tabligh Jamaat ijtimaa, like cattle. And they consider themselves to be good Muslims. Like an ostrich with his head in the sand, have absolutely no knowledge. They are in shirk. They are in shirk, and they know nothing about it. And when you go to them to teach them, they don't want to hear. They put wax in their hairs. They don't want to hear you. So what do you do with such people? What do you do? You want to teach them, they don't want to learn. And then they've been programmed to reject everything else except that which Dajjal has given to them. This is Islam. This is what we have today. The International Monetary Fund has made haram what Allah made halal, and that is shirk. And when we accept what they have done and stop using dinar and dirham as money, we follow them into the shirk, the one sin that Allah will not forgive. Today all of us are in that shirk. Every time you use this money, every time you use this money which came out of the enemy from Dajjal, we are committing shirk. Every time. And this is why the hadith in Sahih Bukhari, we are told that 999 out of every 1,000 will enter into the hellfire, Jahannam. It matters not whether you're Sufi or Salafi or Wahhabi or Tabligh. Everybody in Jahannam. Because this is shirk. Instead of using gold dinar and silver dirham as money, and when the dinar and dirham are in short supply in Java, you don't have dates in Java, do you? No. You don't have wheat? No. You don't have barley? No. What do you have? Baras. Rice.
Rice.
So you'll use rice as money.
Yeah.
Does rice rot, or does it have a shelf life? Yeah, it has a shelf life. Yeah. Is it in abundant supply? Yes.
Yes.
Does it have intrinsic value? Yes. So you'll use rice as money. Is there any alim in Java who is telling you to use rice as money? Anyone? Even one? Do you know of even one? Huh?
No.
None. Not one. And yet this is the solution to the problem. To turn away from the shirk, you have to turn back to money in Islam. If you are to turn back into money in Islam, you can't use gold and silver. Your own gold mines in this country are not owned by you. Huh? If you want to return to Sunnah money, you're going to have to use rice as money in Java. Nobody talks about it. Huh? They gave us this instead.
Yeah.
If you take a piece of paper and you print a picture on it and you put a number and you give to this piece of paper a fictitious value, you are attempting to create wealth out of nothing. That also is shirk. Only Allah creates wealth out of nothing. Only Allah. So they give a fictitious value to it, and we accept that value, so we follow them into the shirk. So every time we use this paper and accept the value that they gave to it, we commit shirk. Does Tabligh Jamaat understand that with their head in the sand like an ostrich? No. They don't. They don't care about this. What are the implications of using this paper? The United States can buy all the oil of Saudi Arabia free of charge. You don't have to pay for it. No, it's free. All that you have to do is to get paper, ink, and a printing press. Paper, ink, and a printing press. And you can buy all the oil from Saudi Arabia, from those donkeys who have the Quran on their backs like a load of books. Huh? But what about when we print our paper? What can we buy? You take a basket full or a suitcase full of rupiah and you land in downtown Manhattan and you go to buy a cup of coffee, you cannot buy even a cup of coffee with a suitcase filled with Indonesian rupiah. That's the pathetic state that we have. Can you turn on the fan, please? Thank you. And so, as they print their paper, they can buy anything they want free of charge. And when we print our paper, we cannot. So they go richer and richer, and we go poorer and poorer. But that's not the end of the game. The game is that all the paper money must constantly be decreasing in value, all. But their paper must sink at a lower speed than ours. As the paper goes down in value, prices will rise. And they call that inflation. And you can go and do your PhD in finance from Harvard and Yale and from Oxford and Cambridge and come back with zero knowledge of inflation. Simple. Because they don't study monetary economics from the perspective that we've given you here. This is going to be too cold for you, so I suggest you put your chair. I'll come on this side here.
It's going right under my feet.
Yeah.
My feet are my weak spot.
And so prices will rise for us faster than for them. And as prices rise, the implication is our money is falling. And so the cost of living is increasing. In fact, we are becoming poorer. And yet poorer. Until they are ready to tighten the noose around the neck. And that is about to occur. While the world of Islamic scholarship is eating masakan padang and going home to sleep. The rope is tightening around our necks. If Israel attacks Iran, it will not be only for the reason stated, namely to destroy the nuclear plants in Iran. That's only one reason. Israel knows very well that within hours of an attack on Iran, the price of oil is going to start rising. And as the price of oil rises, the price of gold will also rise. And the rising price of gold will be the falling value of the dollar, because gold is valued in dollars and oil is valued in dollars. The two are linked together. Oil and the dollar, gold and the dollar, linked together. Within days of an attack on Iran, the price of oil and the price of gold is going to go even higher. Because not only will this export of Iranian oil be stopped, the export of Iraqi oil will also be stopped. More than that, the Kuwaiti oil and the Saudi oil will have to pass through the Gulf, through the Straits of Hormuz to get out. And Iran will block the Straits of Hormuz. And neither the United States nor Israel will be able to prevent that. In fact, I don't think the Zionists want to prevent it. I think the Zionists want Iran to block the Straits of Hormuz. Because I think the Zionists want the US dollar to collapse. When the US dollar collapses, the whole world of paper money is going to collapse with it. But it is those currencies which are weak currencies that are going to witness panic. Maybe within, if Israel attacks Iran, within a matter of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, you'll see Indonesians dumping their rupiah as fast as they can. Buy anything you can buy with your rupiah. Because Indonesians are not stupid. No. Testing is on. Testing is on, yeah. The price of bread will be rising 3-4 times a day. It's called runaway inflation. And Indonesians would know that their paper money is going to collapse. If you keep on holding on to it for too long, all you can do is use it as wallpaper. In that panic to dump the paper, it will accelerate the fall of the paper. It's a vicious circle. Government is powerless to stop that. Well, then what will be the new money? The new money, of course, will be electronic money. And electronic money is not controlled by governments. Electronic money is controlled by banks. The banking system will now create all the money in the world. Any amount they want, you just type it in, and all the donkeys will accept it. And anytime you find somebody who is obstacle in your way, you type out his money. That's all. Type it out. You can't take your money out of the bank because there's nothing tangible. No. You can't see your money, you can't touch your money. It's invisible, it's intangible. Now, as the money collapses, the paper money collapses, whatever wealth that you had will vanish. And so large numbers of people are overnight going to become poor and destitute. Overnight. What do we do before we end? The answer is, we made the mistake with the paper money. Don't make the mistake with the electronic money. Do not become a part of the electronic money system of the world. No. To do that, you have to reside in a place where you can't use a cell phone. To do that, to escape from them, you'll have to reside in a place where you cannot use a cell phone. Therefore, you cannot be a part of the electronic banking system. No. In such a location, which of course will be the remote countryside, you will survive. You will have your own market, and in that market, you come back to Sunnah money. You will never know what is inflation. No. Because you're returning to real money. The enemy cannot rip you off. No. He cannot rob you. Because your money is in your own hand, in your own pocket, not in a bank. But in the remote countryside, you have a second benefit. And that is that once the attack takes place on Iran, which we expect anytime soon, events are going to immediately follow one another until it will culminate with World War. And that World War will be a war between the giants, the American-led coalition and the Russian-led coalition, Gog and Magog. And it will be nuclear warfare. That nuclear warfare, when it takes place, will leave America without any people. America will become a wilderness. Canada will become a wilderness. Europe will become a wilderness. Nobody there. Everybody gone. Huh? And much of the rest of the world also will perish. Because you have thousands of nuclear weapons being used and exploding. Thousands. Every city, major city in the world will perish. And Allah speaks of this in Surah Al-Isra, but we don't read the Quran anymore. In Surah Al-Isra he says, وَإِن مِّن قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا نَحْنُ مُهْلِكُوهَا قَبْلَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُوهَا عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا كَانَ ذَلِكَ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَسْطُورًا. And not a single town or city will escape. We'll destroy them all. We will destroy them all. And those which escape destruction will be punished with a terrible punishment. And all of this is inscribed in the book. The ones who will survive the rioting in the cities when there is no food, survive the nuclear explosions and the radiation, the nuclear radiation, will be those who are outside of electronic range in the remote countryside. And those are the ones who tomorrow will form the army that will liberate the Holy Land. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may protect us and open a way for us that we may escape that doom that now awaits mankind. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين.
Long lecture, but full of many interesting and important matters to be thought about and to be pursued. If there is no change in our lifestyle after the lecture was a waste for us. So we must try and bring into practice the main points of the lecture in our daily lives, as much as we can, even if it's just bit by bit, slowly. But I think the lecture has woken us up, rather than send us to sleep, it has woken us up on the matter of money and riba and sunnah money. And at the very least we should make an effort to return to sunnah money, dinar and dirham. So it's a time for questions. If you have any questions in English or in Indonesian.
Let me answer his question.
Oh yes.
The bank, you take a mortgage with the bank and then there's an insurance policy attached to it to ensure that your money is not lost. Insurance is a sister of riba. Insurance is a sister of riba. The money lender does not want to suffer loss. No. One second. So, that's why he lends money on interest. But Allah can still take from him through other means. He owns a warehouse, and the warehouse is worth 5,000 million rupiah. And a fire comes and consumes the whole warehouse and it's all reduced to zero. But he wants to get back his money. How to get back that 5,000 million rupiah worth of a warehouse? Answer? You have to create something called insurance. And you take the 5,000 million from all the donkeys out there and give it back to me. And I'll pay a certain price for it, but I'll get it back. Insurance, 9 times out of 10 benefits the rich, and less than 1 time out of 10 benefit the rest. Islam has its own insurance. Our insurance is the Jama'ah. That if your house is burnt down in fire and you have no shelter, the whole Jama'ah will come together to try to offer you the minimum that you need for maintenance, for basic needs. And this is the institution of zakat. Zakat. So our insurance company is zakat. Zakat will not replace what you lost. No. Allah took it away from you. Why should we return it to you? But zakat will ensure that you have the basic necessities of life. So we do not ensure. Rather, we ensure, not insure, we ensure that the Jama'ah will provide to you if you suffer loss. The Jama'ah will provide for you your basic necessities. That is insurance in Islam. Any questions?
Mr. Frost?
Sure, 3 quick questions for me. You said that riba is constitutes of 70 parts. Is this an open interpretation that will coming up till now? And my second question is regarding
The Quran, the Hadith does not identify the 70.
Okay.
No. It does not say that there are 70 forms or 70 kinds of riba. No. Is that if you divide riba into 70 parts, okay, then the smallest part, not the smallest kind, the smallest part would be equivalent to a man marrying his own mother. So don't look for what are the names of all the 70. Yes.
I'm not looking for the other name, but the other form of riba.
No, don't look for the other forms.
Don't also?
Don't look for the other kinds.
Okay.
It is like taking a bowl of sugar and dividing it into 70 different parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My second question regarding the banking system that is prevalent in this world. I imagine that if the banking system in the world is riba, it means that we don't have any transaction. It is personal transaction, or rather not institution transaction that institutionalized by the bank, whether it's personal, like old days.
Whatever be the transaction, whether it be a banking transaction or a non-banking transaction, once you use the paper money, it's haram. Okay? Good. When you leave interpersonal transactions and you go to the bank, you have another form of riba in the bank. This one is the use of the paper money, which is a vehicle of rip-off, this one, and that's riba. But the bank now is a vehicle for the accelerated accumulation of wealth by the wealthy. Because the bank not only lends you money on interest, but more than that. If I have 50,000 rupiah in my pocket, and people come to me to borrow money from me, what is the maximum I can lend? 50,000. Huh? Unless I'm a bank. If I'm a bank and I have only 50,000 in my pocket, I can lend 50 million. It's called fractional reserve banking. In other words, one rip-off is paper, ink and printing. And this is another rip-off now. The money I don't have, I can lend. Okay. So this is accelerating the rip-off.
My last question, Sheikh. Regarding the alternative of money, if we make it in Indonesia, like rice, it is difficult to measure rice, the standard of rice, because it's too small, and there's no consensus between the ulama in Indonesia. How can we use rice, and how can we make it the standard as gold and silver is more easy?
So I don't suggest to you that you wait for the consensus of the ulama.
Okay.
Because they're all sleeping.
So how?
They're all sleeping.
Sleeping on the bed.
And even if you go and try to wake them up, they don't want to wake up. No? I know. I've been shouting from the mountain tops for 15 years now. The only man who heard me was Dr. Muhammad Mahathir. Umar Badilio and myself have been in this region talking on this subject. We were the only two, Umar Badilio and myself. Who listened to us? The ulama in charge in Kelantan. Kelantan never listened to us. No. But when Dr. Mahathir got up and he declared that this US dollar is a form of imperialism, and he called for the return of dinar and dirham, only then did Kelantan wake up. Kelantan. Kelantan. Don't you know who is Kelantan?
State in Malaysia.
Kelantan is a state in Malaysia.
But who
Kelantan, when I speak of Kelantan, I assume you'll understand that PAS is in control in Kelantan. Islamic movement is in control in Kelantan. Ulama in control of Kelantan, not Mahathir. So when I say Kelantan, I mean the ulama, the PAS ulama. We spoke to them, they never listened to us. And those are the political ulama. Huh? So don't wait for consensus of the ulama. You cannot solve the problem macro.
Okay.
The only solution you can offer is micro. Micro. And micro is in the countryside, the remote countryside. This is my opinion, you don't have to accept it.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
If there's any consequences with different measurement of the rice, it will be untradable, because let's say in Java we have 500 districts. If we want to tradable exchange, it will be different because it will be rice in the
Yeah. Your micro market will be in the remote countryside. It will not be a market with 500,000 people.
Okay.
No. It will be a market of a small kampung. And in that small kampung, they will more likely than not be using all the same rice. In the event that there is a need to trade between one market and another, the traders will have to solve the problem of the value of this rice when compared with that rice. That's not your problem. The ones who buy and sell, they will solve those problems. You don't have to solve those problems for them. Yeah. Any more questions? Or shall we go and have a cup of hot tea here?
Yes, sir. If we want to complete the application of all the regulation of Al-Quran, the world must be Khilafah must be come again. It's like Muhammad and Khalifatul Rashidin. Because if Indonesia is still democratic system of the country, the Muslim country dibuat kecil-kecil with the disparities, cannot use all the Islamic regulation for all to end our life in the conflict. Because Indonesia is still the democratic system. It is very difficult for use. It's like dirham or dirham. It's like this.
What you've done is to introduce the political analysis that is connected with the monetary analysis now.
Yeah.
Namely that your government system, your political system has an impact or relationship with your monetary system. And our political system, of course, is not secular democracy. Our political system is called the Khilafah. And while Indonesia, more than most other Muslim communities around the world, is longing for the restoration of Khilafah, Indonesia, the fact is that Khilafah cannot be restored so long as the Zionist Judeo-Christian Alliance hold power in the world. They won't allow it. But Khilafah is coming back, and it will come back, in my opinion, at the time of Imam al-Mahdi. And we probably have only another 20 to 30 years left to wait for it. In the meantime, I suggest that if you cannot restore Khilafah at the macro level, you restore Khilafah at the micro level. The micro level is the Jama'ah with an Amir. Even if the Jama'ah has 200 people, the 200 people will give the bay'ah to the Amir. There will be only one masjid, only one. And the Amir will enforce the deen on the members of the Jama'ah. The Amir will ensure that in this market you will only use dinar and dirham. This is how the political system supports the economic system. Okay, I think we've had enough for today.
Yeah.
One more question.
In the recent time, how can we avoid doing shirik while we still cannot avoid doing the paper money, say? And my other question is...
One at a time. The best answer I can give is that we must recognize and accept that if we cannot solve the problem with the solution that I have just given, namely to withdraw from the cities and go to the countryside and build kampung, and in that kampung have a micro market, and in that micro market you prohibit the use of the paper money. And of course electronic money can't work out there because you can't even use a cell phone. And in that market you bring back the sunnah money. If that is not possible, then the only other road open to escape from shirk is the one given by the hadith. The Prophet said that the time will come when a man, in order to preserve his deen, will have to flee to the mountain sides where rain falls and take with him some sheep and goats. If we remain where we are, we remain in shirk. And if we die with the shirk, we go into the hellfire. So while still there is life, there is an opportunity. I should be over there rather than here. My choice is to be over there in the remote countryside, not here. I sacrifice that to go around the world to teach you. And in doing so, I take a risk that if I were to die while I am traveling, I go into hellfire. Yeah, because there is no forgiveness for sure. So I am taking this great risk knowingly, so that I can come and teach you. But as soon as I finish, you're not going to see me again, inshallah. As soon as I finish my travels, I want to head for the remote countryside. You won't be able to contact me by email. You won't be able to call me on the phone. But at least I won't be using the paper money. Okay?
That's the last question.
That's enough?
What is the time?
Oh yeah, the next question.
Comparing to dinar, which one better, dinar or pure gold? We in Indonesia usually buy pure gold.
The sunnah is a coin. Whether the coin is circular, or the coin is square, or the coin is oblong, once it's recognized in the market as a coin, that's the sunnah. Okay? Normally, the coin will have a certain stamp on it, which would identify who it is who issued the coin. So once it has that stamp on it, it is supposed to have a certain weight and a certain purity. And if it is found to have less than that weight, you'll be arrested. The market police will arrest you and question you, where did you get this coin? Because it is haram to chip the coin to make it less in weight. And it is haram to dilute the coin with an alloy to make it less in purity. Yeah? So you will have market police who monitor the use of coins in the market. But in a tiny village, we wouldn't have that. So it will be the traders, the people in the market themselves, who will have to get the knowledge of how to assess the value of coins.
Sorry, because dinar in Indonesia is only 22 carats of gold, but pure gold is 24 carats.
The market will have people buying and selling. Those people who are buying and selling would know that this coin has this purity and that one has that purity. So they will, because it's a small market, so they will have the ability to calculate value. Okay? This is the value of this coin, this is the value of that coin. We don't have to do that.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. So I think we'll come to the end of today's program. And I invite Sheikh Imran to go for tea first with Mr. Roster. Terima kasih teh ke Sheikh Imran di luar di tempat yang di atas. Berdua